Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Messy Cook. So this morning I'm making an older recipe, cornmeal muffins, or this could be used to make Johnny cakes. So these are basically a cornmeal pancake or a cornmeal muffin. So I'm doing them as a cornmeal muffin today. It can also be baked in a 9x9 pan. So we have all of our ingredients set up here. The first thing we need to do is I have 2 egg whites in here, and I'm going to turn my KitchenAid on, lock it up, and turn it on, and I need to whip these to a stiff peak. So we're going to get those going first and set those aside, and then we'll continue with the recipe. So we're going to whip these up nice and stiff, and I'll come back when that's done. And they're getting there, but not quite ready yet. Okay, so these are getting close. We'll turn it down, and we're going to just check this here. So we want a stiff peak, not a soft peak. A stiff peak is so when we blend this, or I should say fold this into our mixture, we want to be sure that it's nice and, nice and fluffy. So let's see, we'll just take this off, and we're going to see, yeah, that's a pretty stiff peak. As you can see, it just kind of is standing there. If I turn that bowl upside down, everything should stay in the bowl. So we are at a stiff peak, and I'm going to take that and just set it aside. Okay, so set those stiff white peaks, egg whites set aside. This is the recipe that I'm doing here. This is a well-used recipe, if you can see here. So cornmeal muffins or Johnny cakes. So I'm going to just zoom into that a little bit. So if you choose to do this recipe, you'll see it there for yourself. Now, I've written up here, bake 15 minutes at 400. This is for if you're doing muffins, and if you're doing in a pan and just doing a square pan, then you're going to add this at, I believe it is, let me see here, 375 to 400, and I would recommend 375 if you're doing it in a pan. So basically this recipe is, and I'm doing a double because I'm going to do a batch for her and a batch for me because I haven't made these in forever. 2 cups of all-purpose flour. So we're going to mix our dry ingredients together. So there's our flour. We're also going to add in 2.5 teaspoons of baking powder, not soda. We will put a little bit of soda in this, but not right away. So we're going to do 2.5 teaspoons of baking powder. Make sure you get those even. 1, 2. There we go, and a half. There you go. So 2.5 teaspoons of baking powder. Sorry, actually I should be doubling that, so I'm going to do another 2.5 teaspoons. So sorry about that. So I could have just done 5 total because, like I said, I'm doubling this recipe. So there's my half. Okay. Alrighty. And let's see here, 1 teaspoon of salt. This is 1/3, so 2/3 of a teaspoon of table salt. That's just regular old salt. So that's 2/3 of a teaspoon, which is approximately that much. So we're just going to pop that in there as well. And we're going to do 1 cup of cornmeal. Like I said, I'm doubling, so I'm just going to throw the cornmeal in. And you think cornmeal muffins should be all cornmeal. At least I thought I did the first time I made it. And realized it swells up quite a bit. This is the cornmeal. I use Unicode, so which is fine. So, use whatever brand you have. So there's my cornmeal, and we're just going to give this a quick mix up. There's all of our ingredients. We're just going to get this mixed until everything's combined nice. It's a nice pale yellow. Okay, I'm going to set this aside. And, I think I missed the baking soda. I did 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. So I'm going to put that baking soda in there. I don't want to miss it. It's an important part of this recipe as well. And there we go, 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. Excuse me. So, alrighty, so we have all those ingredients. So if you're doing one recipe, it's going to be 1 cup of flour, 2.5 teaspoons of baking powder, 1/3 of a teaspoon of salt, 1/4 of a teaspoon of baking soda, and 1/2 cup of cornmeal. So I'm going to set this aside, and we're going to get our wet ingredients ready. And I realized I also forgot to add the sugar in. So this also calls for 1/4 cup of sugar. I'm doing half because, like I said, I'm doubling the recipe. So we're just going to mix that in quick as well. Okay, so sorry about that. Alrighty, so that's set aside, and I'll get those wet ingredients ready to show you what we do next. Alright, now for the wet ingredients, we're going to do 2 egg yolks. Like I said, the original recipe calls for 1, but I've put that little recipe at the front so you can just follow it per what you want. This calls for one recipe, 1/4 cup of molasses or honey. I've never done it with the molasses. I think using the molasses is a little bit older, so I'm going to use 1/2 cup of honey because I prefer the honey. So you can use liquid honey. This one, excuse me, isn't liquid, but I've just warmed it up a little bit just to get it to a more liquid texture. So let's get that all out there so it all gets blended properly. So the honey, this is a raw honey that I got from a friend of my sister and her husband's farm, and it does get a little more solid, so I just like to get that a little bit more liquid. We're going to add in, let's see what else we have here. That's for 3/4 cup of cold milk, and I'm doubling, so I'm going to do 1.5 cups. So this is my 3/4 cup measure. We're just going to blend in 2 of those. So a 1.5 cup or 3/4 if you're doing a single recipe. There we go. So we're going to take that out, and we want to give this a whisk up just to combine everything nicely. Throw the dishes aside. There we go. And on top of that, I have some melted butter. So this recipe calls for 1/4 cup of melted butter. So I have, because I'm doubling, I have a 1/2 cup of melted butter here. Okay, so we're just going to mix that in. There we go. So let's give this a really good whisk. You can do this in the mixer as well, but I prefer to just do it by hand. And it's kind of nice just to do it the way it was originally done before hand mixers came out. This is an old 5 Roses book. So there's lots of old traditional recipes that, you know, our grandparents grew up with, our parents, and, well, I did. So, okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to combine these. So, let's get everything together, and we're going to combine that. Okay, so I'm going to add these wet ingredients to the dry ingredients, and we're going to mix it until it just combines. I'm just going to pour that in the middle. You can do a well if you want. I'm not going to, but it works out pretty well the same anyhow. We got that all mixed in. I'm going to use my whisk and just make sure that this is combined until it's just wet. Might be a little bit lumpy, that's okay. If you do muffins or you've done muffins before, a little bit of a lumpy texture is okay. Alright, just going to bang that off and just make sure that this is combined nicely. So this is the texture you want right now. Yes, it looks a little lumpy, but that's okay because that's what we're looking for. Now we're going to take the egg whites and we're going to fold those in. So I'm going to shake that off. The egg whites being done like this and folded in gives the, there we go, will give the muffins some air and a little bit of a lift. So we're just going to fold that in. Hopefully you can see that okay. I just stir around, do a big fold, literally fold over, fold over. It smells wonderful. And maybe next time I make these, I might try them with the molasses instead of the honey and see. I think they would just be a little bit darker, which I think would be perfect. So we're going to give a very quick kind of stir there, get these eggs combined. You don't want to over mix it, but we do want to get those egg whites combined in there. So it's not a super thick texture. Now this will swell quite a bit. You'll see it does look kind of runny. That's okay because that cornmeal is going to continue to swell and to suck up all that moisture. So I've got my pans to the side here. We're going to gather those. I think that's perfect. Everything looks mixed nicely. So we're going to leave that aside for a second. I'm going to get the pans ready here and pulled out, and we're going to get those filled up. Okay, so I'm going to get these filled up here. I got these lovely scoops, and they're super handy. Came in a pack of 3 from Amazon. Let me see if I've got the lid here and I can show you. This is technically an ice cream scoop. So this is the brand that I bought, Ocean ice cream scoop 3-pack. This is a great set. I use it all the time for cookies and baking and ice cream as well. So the middle size one seems to fill up. This recipe says to fill to about 2/3 full because they do expand quite a bit. That's just going to hold these. There we go. So that's about 2/3 full. So I'm going to continue to fill this pan, and I'll come right back to you. Now the oven as well needs to be preheated to 400 degrees, which I did at the start of the video. Okay, so here I have exactly 2 dozen muffins ready to go. This recipe does, not 2 dozen, 1 no, 2 dozen. This recipe, for one recipe, does 1 dozen muffins, or one 8x8 or 9x9 pan. Like I said, if you're doing the 9x9 or 8x8, you're going to cook it for, approximately, oh my gosh, what is the recipe on here? I think we cook it for something like 25 minutes. It doesn't specify on here, but you know, give or take, try. As long as your toothpick comes out clean, you're all set. I found for the muffins at this size, it's about 15 minutes at 400. I have done them in bigger muffin tins, so you get 6 bigger muffins if you have one of those tins and you prefer to put them. Those ones took about 22 minutes at 400 degrees. So we're going to pop these in the oven and come back. Alrighty, so these are at 400 degrees, like I said. I'll pop both of these. I'm going to put them on the same shelf. There we go. I'm going to set this to 15 minutes, and we're going to come back and check just to be 100% sure that we are done at 15. And there we go. Okay, we're just finishing the last few seconds of our bake. So there we go. Turn that timer off, and we're going to open our oven up, and we're going to check our muffins. Oh my gosh, these look absolutely delicious, and I'm pretty sure they're done. I like to pick the biggest one and test that one, because if that one comes out clean, this looks like it here. See, that's come out clean. So our muffins are done. So I'm going to take these out and get them on the counter. There we go. These are absolutely, oh my god, the smell is amazing. You guys have got to try this. Do this. Make your pumpkin spice latte that I posted the other day, and have yourself one for breakfast. Trust me, these popped out of the pan just to cool them a little bit better. You know, I did use the muffin cut papers for this recipe. Now, if you prefer not to do that, that's fine. Just spray your pan with a little bit of pan spray, or oil it, or butter, or whatever. They should come out pretty evenly that way, but we just want to be sure that these are all going to pop out nice. And it's a nice way to present them and package them up as well. Okay, so these are all done. I'm going to pack them all up. My hubby's had one. He said our husband approved, so that's perfect. So I like to serve them with a little pat of butter while they're still warm, and let that melt in. You can have it with honey if you like, or on their own, or like I said, make a pan and do it with a barbecue. So this is my breakfast this morning. I have a nice cup of coffee with a cornmeal muffin with a little bit of butter, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Enjoy this nice fall weather, and come back. Don't forget to subscribe to my page, and on the next day or two there's going to be some nice soup videos, and these muffins would go great with that. They do freeze well as well, so enjoy. I'm going to go over this recipe one last time and give you a little look-see here. So again, these are, oh, there we go, if we can get that in there. Well, I'll take a picture now at the end that's not too readable. There we go. Okay, one cornmeal muffins or Johnny cakes. And there is your ingredients. Just pause the video and you'll have everything you need. Okay, thank you. Have a great day, and don't forget to subscribe.